And we continue to follow breaking news out of London this morning. Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, husband to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, has died. So the Duke passed away this morning at Windsor Castle. Prince Philip had been hospitalized several times, of course, in recent years, actually just released from hospital most recently 3 weeks ago after spending 28 days for a number of things. The palace released a statement on Prince Philip's death that reads in part, His Royal Highness passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle. Further announcements will be made in due course. The royal family joined with people around the world in mourning his loss. For more on the passing of Prince Philip and the lasting legacy of the Duke of Edinburgh, we're joined by our Europe Bureau Chief, Crystal Gamansing, who joins us from London, and our royal commentator, Phil Dampier, also joining us from London. Welcome to you both on this difficult and solemn occasion. We appreciate you joining us. Crystal, let's begin with you. In terms of just reaction among Britons, how are they taking this news?
Well, you know, this is something, Anthony, that isn't necessarily unexpected. You know, the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip, 99 years old, as you just mentioned. He was ill, had spent a month in hospital, even undergoing a procedure for a pre-existing heart condition. Of course, no one wanted this to happen. Everyone wanted to see him reach his 100th birthday in June. We have already heard from British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who expressed the nation's sadness, but also their gratitude for an individual who has served as the Queen's consort, traveled the world, but also we have to remember this is a veteran. He served with the Royal Navy during the Second World War. His service to Britain and to the world goes beyond the royal family, and so we're hearing more of those stories right now, and those tributes will continue to pour in. Of course, he is also known for his sense of humor, a bit of an off-color sense of humor at times. That has gotten him into trouble in the past. So probably more of those stories. So there's a little bit of, I don't want to say joy, but sort of more of a tribute to this man, this 99-year-old figure, really not only here in Britain, but around the world.
Yeah, well said. I mean, 99 years of life, certainly many stories that many people have. And Phil, when you look at his life overall, his life of public service as well, he retired in 2018, correct? More than 22,000 public engagements circling the globe. It's almost astounding, isn't it?
It is astounding. I think Crystal's actually absolutely right. You can't really call it a tragedy when someone's had a long and colourful life like Prince Philip. And because he's lived so long, we do tend to forget his extraordinary list of achievements. As you say, 20,000 engagements, 5,000 speeches, 800 patronages, married to the Queen for 73 years. The longest serving, the oldest consort in British history, the third oldest royal. Two ladies were older than him. The Queen Mother was one of them, but an absolutely extraordinary life. And do you know he actually came to Canada, which was one of his favourite countries, 75 times, the last time of which was in 2013 when he came to see some soldiers there and asked one of them who'd been in Afghanistan and been shot, did you get the blow back? So he had his sense of humour even then, and I'm sure he would have loved to have come back to Canada even more had he not reached such a great age. He absolutely adored the country.
Yeah, his birthday would be in June, of course, turning 100. Crystal, when we look at the protocol and what comes next, in terms of the funeral, in terms of the ultimate burial, what do we know at this point?
Well, we are waiting for some more information because we know that Prince Philip has said that he didn't want a fuss made about his death. So we'll wait for those exact details. There will be a period of mourning, and that really starts right now. You will see flags being lowered, a number of tributes happening. No doubt that we will start to see flowers being laid at Buckingham Palace and at Windsor Castle. Eventually, after this period, he will go back to Windsor Castle. He will be laid to rest at St. George's Chapel on the grounds of the castle there, which is where a number of royals are buried and where the Queen will eventually be buried as well. So those details are still to come, but I think that we will obviously see Prince Philip's wishes be carried out in terms of, you know, he really was a no-fuss kind of guy. At least that's how he's often portrayed.
Interesting. Yeah, and we talk about tributes, Phil, and of course we have to talk about the legacy and the accomplishments, because it couldn't have been an easy job being the husband of the Queen, especially so many public engagements that you have to take part in. I wonder, did he enjoy that side of the job?
Well, the biggest sacrifice he made, of course, was to give up his naval career. There's no doubt he was heading for the top in the Navy. And, of course, when the Queen's father died in 1952, George VI, he had to give all that up and support the Queen. And he did that magnificently. And, obviously, he did things on his own, like the Duke of Edinburgh Award Scheme. And, of course, he was a trailblazer in all sorts of environmental issues, the World Wildlife Fund, and things like that. So he carved out his own niche. But in terms of following the Queen around, obviously he had to follow her a few steps behind all the time, which was a strange thing for a proud man like himself. And I think that's sometimes where the humour came in and the gaffes came in. He sometimes did them to amuse himself and get through sometimes some boring engagements. And he was only trying to break the ice a lot of the time. He'd chivvy people up and make a joke, and just very occasionally he overdid it. And some people did get a little bit insulted and a little bit upset by them. But I don't think he ever went out with any intention of upsetting anyone. He just sometimes didn't quite tone it down enough.
And you wonder, with everything going on, especially with the royal family, fractured, if you will, whether this will unite the family. And even in some respects, unite the Commonwealth. Of course, many questions.
Princess Elizabeth and Lieutenant Mountbatten, looking very happy, thanked one guest after another for all the good wishes. And I feel sure they must have realized that at this time also, millions in Britain and the Commonwealth were thinking of them and their future. As the royal wedding draws near, the whole nation welcomes the opportunity of wishing long life and happiness to Her Royal Highness and to her fiancé.
It's been a challenge for us, but by trial and experience, I believe we have achieved a sensible division of labour and a good balance between our individual and joint interests. However, I think that the main lesson that we've learned is that tolerance is the one essential ingredient of any happy marriage.
Shots taken during off-duty hours in the wardroom with some of his fellow officers. Princess drove and the Prince acted as fireman. Quite a thrill, no doubt.
Her tour cut short by the tragic passing of her father, Queen Elizabeth leaves the Argonaut. There is no ceremony, but all thoughts for her at this sorrowful homecoming.
He had a clear eye. He could see what a waste of time to do it that way, or might be better to do it this way. And I'm sure if he said it, no doubt he would. I mean, why would you keep it to yourself when you have an opinion and you think it could be better?
Nobody had really thought about, and by the way, what's he going to do? And it took a little while to find people who understood that he had extraordinary experience and skills of his own that could be made very good use of. But he also found ways in which he could make an impact.
To have somebody that you can confide in and smile about something which you couldn't perhaps smile about in public is very, very important. To be able to share that with somebody is immensely important.